Okay, welcome everyone to the What to Expect at J. Robinson Camps. This is a live webcast we've got going on here tonight. And my name is Sue, and I'm the brand manager for the J. Robinson Camp system. Gosh, we really want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. We really appreciate you choosing J. Robinson Camps and are looking forward to helping you get you or your athlete fully prepared to succeed at camp. We really know that we're the best camp to coach athletes in both wrestling and life skills, and we truly value the trust that you're putting in our legendary training. We're confident that after tonight, after hearing firsthand from our camp leadership team, athletes will be prepared to do what is needed and beyond to have a productive JROB camp experience. So what we're going to do here tonight is just talk a little bit about our camps and why J. Robinson camps are the #1 intensive camp in the country, and why is that? And really what it comes down to, it's an unchanging, uncompromising standard of excellence since 1978. And really only our camp has exceptionally high benchmarks and training regimens that are specifically designed to drastically improve an athlete's physical and mental toughness. So getting to tonight, just to kind of give you a heads up on how it's going to work, the format's going to be divided up into about 3 parts, more or less. First, our founder, Jay Robinson, he's going to provide a background of what his coaching and training philosophy is based on and how it influences camp each year. Then Jay is going to turn it over to our Director of Wrestling Operations, Ty Eustice, and he's going to give a really constructive overview of camp details, which is the ton of questions that we get. And he's going to talk about the check-in process, the on-site camp information, what you should bring, and he's going to just talk about kind of the common questions that parents have about safety and contacting the camp staff. And then Ty's going to wrap it up as he talks about the pre-camp training recommendations. And what's really important for the parents who are tuned in is how you can provide really firm support for your son or daughter who's going through a pretty amazing and intense experience as a teenager. The one thing you need to know is that there is a live online chat available throughout the entire webcast. And we've got just our veteran customer service crew handling all the questions. And there's also time at the end of the webcast for a live Q&A chat with both Jay Robinson and Ty Eustice. So again, just kind of getting into our background here a little bit. For those of you who don't know, Jay Robinson, he created this intensive camp training system in 1978. It is the original intensive camp training system, and it is setting the standard of excellence in athletic camps, pardon me. The camp philosophy and strict protocols are developed from Jay's military service as an Army Airborne Ranger, a 1972 Olympian, and he's been coaching for over 40 years at 2 of the top wrestling programs in the nation. We have had over 30,000 wrestlers attend camp every year, and we receive letters on an ongoing basis from former camp athletes who tell us how intensely this camp challenged them and ultimately change them to be and strive for the best. Former JROB grads have gone on to be state champions, NCAA champions, and they've just pursued some distinguished careers in the military and professional sector. So again, we thank you for joining us tonight. This webcast is always our most popular broadcast, and our aim tonight is just to help you answer any questions you have leading up to camp and help you achieve your wrestling goals. So now I'd like to introduce Jay Robinson. He's the founder of the J. Robinson Intensive Camps, and he's just going to give you a little bit of history of what the camp philosophy is based on.
Thank you, Sue. Welcome everyone that's joined us tonight to learn a little bit more about what to expect at camp and what's going to happen. And we're going to share some great insight with you and some details and things that will help you understand a little bit more about what the camp is all about. As we walk you through this, the object is in the history of J. Robinson Camps. I think it's important for you to understand what the camp is and how it came about. And it came about when I was a coach at Iowa in 1978. We designed a camp. My roommate came home one time, John Marks, and said, we need to develop a camp that helps people train the way you need to train to become a champion. And thus started the intensive camp. The intensive camp has been around for 37 years, and it's the original one. And what I mean by that is that people talk about intensive camps all the time. There's 3 day, there's 4 days, there are 5 days. And what has happened with most of them is they take just the name intensive, they slap it on a camp, they do it for 3 or 4 days, they have some workouts, and they call that an intensive camp. And that's really not what an intensive camp is. An intensive camp is developed over 37 years of refining the process, of finding the best things that we do and keeping those and eliminating the things that don't work. And it's been a great training model, and it's changed lives for 37 years. And it changes those lives by, it's based upon the premise of skill development, in that we change the skills that wrestlers need to become better wrestlers. They become better wrestlers, but at the same time, they're life-changing skills. And a little bit later, I'll talk about these specific skills that we have flushed out over the course of 37 years of doing this. Right? The training philosophy is it's a life-changing, and we have introduced it. And the things that we do are different than a lot of other schools do, right? One of the most important things about an intensive camp is time. And there's all kinds of short. There's 5 day ones, there's 7 day one, there's 8 days, 9 days. I would encourage you to ask one of the directors, why do they have 9 days? Why do they have 7 days? They don't have them based upon what is going to happen or what the model is needed to accomplish what you need to accomplish at an intensive camp. They're based upon what works for the schools. We have found through 37 years, when we started our first 28-day camp, is that time is one of the most important factors, right, to reinforce the skill development in both wrestling and life that you need to carry those skills with you once you go back to your hometown and to your wrestling team. Is that it's kind of like a rubber band. Once it's stretched, it never goes back to the same size. And so everything at the camp philosophy is designed to help your athlete get better, both mentally and physically. One of the things that we do is we put them in stress situations. Now, stress is something that's not talked about a lot, but it's one of the great equalizers in life. And what we do is we put your athlete in stress situations. But not only do we do that, but what we do is we give them skills in which to deal with these situations all throughout camp. And the stress is different. The first few days, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of things going on. Then there's stress from boredom. There's stress from missing their home, their families. And so we talk a lot about the things that they need to do and the things that they need to focus on where they're going. So, and talking about, as we move forward, we talk about something that's called, what we have designed over the course of these 37 years as the J7. And the J7 are some skills that we have developed over the course of 39 years. And what I mean by developed is it didn't start out that we just had this magic moment and there's 7 skills. Is what we did is, probably for the first 4 years, we found 4 skills that we thought were very important: discipline, dedication, sacrifice, and hard work. And they were the core of what the intensive camp did. But then we realized that in dealing with young athletes, is that responsibility and accountability were important too. And then within the last 5 years, we've kind of rounded it out and we've added service. And when you look at them, 6 of the skills are about you. 6 of the skills that will help you become a better wrestler, right? And the 7th skill is about service, is about helping other people once you figure out who you are. When you go through them, discipline, okay, is the basis of everything. And discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. And it's a learned skill. It's something that you learn and you get better at. And all throughout camp, all we do, everything that we do in camp, is to reinforce these 7 skills. From running to weight training to lectures, everything is designed to help these skills get developed to their utmost, and then to drive them deep within the athlete, so when they leave, whether it's 28, 14, or 10 days, that they take these skills with them. Discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. Dedication, on the other hand, is being able to dedicate yourself to the 10, 14, or 28 days that it will require you to graduate from camp. Sacrifice you're going to have to give up things to get where you want to be in life. And also, you're going to have to give up things while you're at camp. You're going to have to learn to sacrifice some time of hanging out or hanging out with your cell phone to getting some sleep, getting rest, preparing yourself. Hard work. One of the things and the first thing that I tell kids when they come to camp is you have a definition of hard work and I have a definition of hard work, and our definitions are miles apart. And when you leave here in either 10, 14, or 28 days, when I say we're going to work hard, you're going to understand what I mean. Responsibility, you are responsible for everything you do in life, but also at camp, and you will be held accountable, not only as an individual, but as a group as a whole. And then service is that I talk a lot about wrestlers being warriors. And as a warrior, part of your deal is to fight. And when we go on the mat, we fight. But the other thing is that once we find out who we are with the 6 skills, then the 7th skill is learning to help others, taking care of the less fortunate. And it's a skill like anything else. So these J7 become very, very important. And they're things that we reinforce daily in everything that we do. Our intensive camp schedule is designed, all right, to do a little bit of cross training, okay, and to enhance all areas of your wrestling. There's 4 areas to be a good athlete, whether you're a football player, a basketball player, or a wrestler. And it's, as they start out, it's skill development, it's strength, it's endurance, and mental training. And we do all those things through our daily schedule. We have running in the morning. It's an interesting thing that some camps talk about they don't run, but we've found that running is one of the most important things you can do to learn to help kids push themselves. There's no easy way to do a 5-minute mile. You have to focus and you have to stay in the game. One of the campers a long time ago, when we asked him, what did you learn at JROB camp? He said, I learned that running didn't have to do so much with my legs as it did with my head. So running is just one part of what we do, but it learns to help the athletes push themselves. Strength development, a stronger athlete is a better athlete. We do 4 different strength training programs while they're here. They're actually doing them and they understand what they are. Endurance is the ability to be able to push yourself beyond the limit that you have established for yourself. And on a daily basis, we're pushing the athletes, right, to go to a different place, to get and find a different place to be. And once you get that endurance, the other thing that you develop out of it is the mental training, the mental toughness. So on a daily basis, we do all these things, and the wrestling part is that we reinforce it 3 times a day. Our basic schedule is we get up and we run in the morning or we weight train. We have breakfast, come back. Usually they rest. They come back in the morning from 10 to 12. They do skill development at that time. Unless weather becomes a situation, sometimes we have to switch the practices up based upon the weather conditions. Sometimes they might have a hard practice in the morning, the skill development in the afternoon. In the afternoon, it's usually hard practice to learn how to do the hard pushing of yourself and how to do combat, so to speak. At evening, we come back, we have a mental training. We teach them visualization, which we go through every night while they're at camp. We also have the athletes that are at camp come in and talk to them and give them pep talks on the things that they did while they were athletes. And then they go in and they either review what they learned in the morning or the day before, or they do running or weight training if they haven't done it that day. So the process is very defined. If you came to camp, I talked to all the parents on the very first day and all the last day. All the practices are open, but it's an interesting thing that at any time you can come to any practice. You could ask me at any time why we do a practice and what we do and why we do it, and I will give you an answer that everything has been designed for a very specific reason. It's not a hodgepodge of just having 3 or 4 practices a day. It becomes very important, everything that we do at camp. The highlights of camp, there's a lot of highlights, right? And as you look through them, and I could go through them very quickly, is that you have to understand that everything at camp is done for a very specific reason. There's nothing that's just done randomly. We have red flag days. That's a practice that pushes you beyond your mental bounds. It's just a very hard physical practice. At the 28-day, we have 3 of these. At the 14-day camps, we have 2, and at the 10-day camp, we have 1. Black Hat Winner. Black Hat Winner is just a symbol of the best kid, the best athlete that represents the J. Robinson fundamentals in each group. We have a Navy SEAL Trident Challenge. What that is the Navy SEAL's physical standard test. It's not to make your athlete a Navy SEAL, but what it is it's a challenge. It's something we use at camp is we want the kids to try something that they might not be good at. And if they're not good at it, they find out where they are, they get a time, and they can try and become better and better. And to learn to challenge yourself regardless of how you feel. If you're not sure that you can do it, that's not important. The challenge is important. The very last day, we have final runs of either 9, 12, or 15 miles, depending what camp you're in. 10 and 14-day camps have a 9 or 12-mile run. The 28-day camp has a 9, 12, or 15-mile run. And it's kind of a graduation. You're out there by yourself. It's learning to push yourself, and it's learning to do something you haven't done before. I give a presentation, as I said, to the parents before camp, what to expect, how to deal with your son or daughter if they're at camp, if they call and they're having a hard time. And the object is for us to help you get them through it, because it will be very physically and mentally demanding. For some of them, and probably the most of them, 95% of them, it'll probably be the hardest thing they do in their life, but they'll grow from it. So it's important for us to share the things that you'll need to do as a parent to help them stay in the game. We develop a personal philosophy. A lot of things in life, people want their kids to be leaders, but it's not that simple. Before you can be a leader, you have to know where you're going, and before you know where you're going, you have to have a philosophy of who you want to be. And so we develop a personal philosophy while they're there. Then they do a 10-year goal setting plan of where they want to be in 10 years. And then we talk about leadership of who they want to be. We have a lot of daily seminars on different life skills, things of how to deal with adversity, how to work hard, how to deal with boredom, how to get through the different things that life throws you. We have one on money management, okay? Things that I have found that to be very important for these young people when they're growing up. We also have a Smile Network project, and what that is the service part of our intensive camp deals with. We have adopted the Smile Network, which fix kids with cleft palates. And over the course of the last 7 to 8 years, we have changed about 50 kids' lives through the money that's been donated through the kids at camp. Whatever the kids at camp donate, camp matches. So last year, kids donated over $5,000, and camp matched that with $5,000, and we changed 20 kids' faces for life. And I think that's important for them to see what goes on, is that they can make a difference and we can make a difference. And then the very last day we have a graduate, is that we have a graduation. Parents are welcome to it. Everybody can come. They get a certificate of graduation, and then we talk to them before their final red flag day. The other thing that we have that we started in 1978 when we first started, it's an I did it shirt. And it's one of the things that's very important to the camp, because it's a statement of excellence. It's a statement that I did something that was very, very hard, very, very difficult, and I feel proud about it. And it's no different. One of the things in life is earning badges. If you're a Boy Scout, you earn different badges, and you felt good of those. If you became an Eagle Scout, right? And I did it shirt is the same thing as far as the intensive camp. And what I say by that is that you have to earn it. All right. It's a little bit different than what's in society today, to where if you show up, you get a shirt. Everybody that comes to camp will get a camp shirt, but you have to earn your I did it shirt. And it's based upon a point system. And the point system basically is the exact one that came out of Ranger School, and that everybody starts with 1,000 points, and you need 700 points to graduate. And it doesn't ever get graded on a curve. If you have 690 points, you don't graduate with a shirt. You don't get an I did it shirt. So it becomes very important for the kids to understand where they are. Now, within the point system, 80% of those points are within the athlete's control, right? And those points go as doing your workbook, showing up on time, having clean clothes, all the things that goes on with the daily things that we talk and we reinforce at camp become part of this system to graduate and to earn this shirt. And it's a very prestigious thing. I run into people continually that have been to camp 30 years ago. And one of the first questions I always ask them is, you still have your I Did It shirt? And it's an interesting thing is that most of them say, yes, I do. And that's what it means to them. They've kept it for so long. The other thing is that we have an intensive camp schedule, and we have different camps. We have a 10-day camp, 2 14-day camps, and a 28-day camp. People ask us why, which one is the best. If I was to say, the best one would be the 28-day camp, and I would say that because one of the things that we found, or the most important thing that we found for really helping people change and doing something, is time. In 28 days, you have enough time to reinforce time and time again, every day in everything that you do, the commitment to what you want to do. But at the same time, when we started this 37 years ago, we put in what we called at that time mini intensive camps. And we found that time was a factor. So we did it in 14 days. And we found that we could get some great success in 14 days. And then we found that 10 days is the least amount of time that we can do what we think is really critically important. Because when you take a 10-day camp, you throw out the first day and the last day, you only have 8 days to get everything done that you got to get in 28. So it's a very, very packed situation. So that's what the intensive camps are all about. When people ask me, one of the other things is the sooner you go, the better, the more important it is. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, 40% of the kids that come to camp are juniors that are going to be seniors. And they're doing that because they haven't got what they want and they need to change, right? But if you can come as an 8th grader becoming a 9th grader, as an example, and you learn the things that really make things different, then you have 3 to 4 years to practice and enhance those skills that you learned as a 9th grader. Last thing I would like to introduce our camp director. We have a great director, Ty Eustice. He's been with us for 3 years. And the beauty of Ty is he's done it all. He's a 4-time state champion, so he understands what goes on in the high school ranks. He's a 2-time All-American. He's an NCAA finalist. And there's a lot of things that make Ty very special. When we talk about a director of wrestling operation, is he's on site at all the intensive camps. And what I mean by on site is he's there every day, right? And what that states is, by him being there, it means that he cares. He believes in what we do. He brings a commitment to make us the best intensive camp in the country. And I've been around a lot of people in 37 years, and he's very extraordinary in what he believes and the caring nature that he brings to camp for the young athletes. He's made some great suggestions since he's come to camp that has even made our camp better in the course of the last 3 years that he's been with us. So he's going to talk about you some other things. And I think that if you're around and your son gets a chance to be impacted by him, I think you will be impressed with him too. So right now I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Wrestling Operations, Ty Eustice.
Hi, everybody. We're going to cover a lot of logistical things here in the next few slides. You'll see on your screen some of the things that I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about your online account, a little about check-in. We get a lot of questions about that, some on-site logistical things, our camp store, which is very popular, photos of your wrestler and social media. I'm going to talk a lot about safety and customer service, which we believe in both of those probably more than anything, and then a little bit more about Jay. So your online account, when you registered, you can re-log back into that and do a number of things. You can go back in and make payments towards camp. We do want your balance to be paid 3 weeks out from camp. If there's ever any issues with that, or if that schedule doesn't work for you, please just call us, let us know. We're happy to work with people on that side of things. You can go back into your account and download the necessary forms that you'll need at camp. A little about purchasing products. We have the customized shirts, we have jump ropes, we have gear packs, we have those type of things. Deadline to purchase those is 3 weeks before camp if you want those customized apparel and practice gear. For you Iowa people, we're giving you one more day. If you want to go back in and get that customized practice gear, please email us tomorrow or call us tomorrow, or go back into your account and get that taken care of. But for everybody else, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Oregon, the deadline is going to be 3 weeks before camp starts for us to do customizable gear. So same thing with the online account. You can go back in and change your registration, adjust those flight times, whatever you need to do. And just the last note, medical forms do need to be notarized. We take those very, very seriously. We use those a lot at camp. So moving on to check-in at that first day of camp, we have our airport pickups. We have a lot of people flying into camp from all over. We have a very good system. We will go out. If you sign up for that airport shuttle on your account, we will get your son to camp. It's a very important thing. We have a lot of people concerned with that, but we have a very good system of shuttling kids from the airport to camp. As long as you go in and update that flight information, everything's going to be fine. At check-in, we're there. We're ready for the kids to come in. They come in, throughout that whole check-in period. We get them through that line, and they have a number of things to do when they do get to check-in. So the earlier they can get in there, the better, get settled, and we do make them do some tasks right when they get to campus. We do have a practice the very first night. Go through check-in, have some things to complete. The first thing we do is we do put them through a time run. That first time run, it's a mile or a mile and a half, depending on how we feel. But that run, that time is how we determine what running group we put those kids in. And that's very, very important for camp. So kids need to know that coming in there. I'm going to mention something that's not on here, but we always hear people come in and say, well, we just had a big meal right before we came to camp. Remember, we are weighing your kids in. That weight is what we judge hydration on. So please don't have a gigantic meal right before you show up at check-in. It kind of throws the whole weight thing off a little bit. And that's just one suggestion that I wanted to add this year just because we have so many people saying that the first day. That pre-order merchandise that you ordered online, that is at check-in is when you will collect that. We have the camp store set up that very first night. You'll go from check-in. If you ordered merchandise, gear pack, jump rope, skincare, things like that, you will get that at check-in, and you'll get that at the camp store the very first day. The other thing I'll address right now is we also get a lot of questions about if I show up on my own, who will I room with and how do you choose roommates? How we do roommates is basically who you're in line next to. So if you are coming with teammates, if you're coming with a friend, just make sure that you're at check-in together, and that's who you'll be placed in a room with. If you're coming alone and don't know anybody, that's okay. What we'll do is we'll try to match you up with someone as close to your age as possible. So we're not going to put a 7th grader with a senior. We will try to match people up based on their age. So if you want a specific roommate, just plan on being at check-in at the same time, get in line together, and you'll get a room together. A few more logistical things on site. Mail-in packages. Do not mail anything to our JROB main office. In your confirmation materials, you'll have an address for whatever camp your camper, your wrestler is going to be at. Make sure you get that address correct. It will show up to them. We get a lot of mail at camps, and we always get it to the camper right on time. So don't send it to our office here in Minneapolis. Send it to the address that we give you in that confirmation material. Same thing with telephone. Check those confirmation materials. We have a number of telephones on site at all of our camps. We have our staff duty, which is answered all the time. We have trainer duty, which is answered, and we have camp store has their own phone as well. So those 3 major parts of camp all have a telephone on them at all times, so you're going to be able to reach someone. And obviously our camp office here in Minneapolis will answer all phone calls as well. Laundry is another thing that's a very big concern for parents. That's part of your camp payment for the intensive camps. We're doing laundry every single day, and most of the time the dorms will also have normal dorm laundry where kids can do their own laundry if they need for their walking around clothes, but their workout clothes are being done by us. All they need to do is get their stuff turned in on time, and we give them a lot of reminders of when to do that. Laundry is very, very important for skin and just cleanliness and attitude. The food is done by each college cafeteria. It's typical college dorm food. We do our very, very best to suggest things to them. We want salads, we want fruit, we want the good food that's going to give the kids energy. But that is done by the host school's food service department. Visiting, we absolutely encourage parents, or if we've had some of the kids as friends come and want to watch them at camp, and we allow anyone to come in and observe practice. So if you are a parent and you feel a little uneasy about coming to visit, please come and visit. You're not imposing or anything like that. Come and watch your camper in action at camp. We do get on the kids quite a bit, and we're going to talk about safety in a little bit, but as far as traffic, they are doing a lot of walking to and from the dorms, food service, to the wrestling. We are constantly on them about being safe, staying on the sidewalk, staying off the streets, and that is a very big emphasis of camp. It's just another part of the safety, which I'll get into in a little bit. Some more questions that we get a lot of: what to bring, what not to bring. I'm not going to run through the entire list here. I will point out at Minnesota, it's usually a good idea to bring a little scooter. That's becoming very, very popular. That's something, they are going a little bit further distance at the Minnesota camp to get from the dorms to the wrestling complex. The other camps, we do not want them bringing any scooters or any other bikes. We see a lot of longboards now, skateboards, not as many bikes. The scooters are very, very popular. But what not to bring: do not bring a window air conditioner, toaster, obviously alcohol and tobacco products. We will not tolerate at camp. So those are some pretty obvious things of what not to bring. Again, just check out our website. We have a camp packing list under the parents tab, and the confirmation material has all this information as well. So just on that point, just please comb those confirmation materials. There's a lot of info in there. Again, 37 years of trying to perfect this model. So please read that thing top to bottom, and you'll get a very good idea of camp, along with what we're doing right now. Camp store, again, a very popular place for the kids at night. We have a lot of options in there for them, just some things that they can get, and it becomes a pretty social place as well at camp. So the difference between a camp bank and a camp store bucks: the camp bank is basically an envelope with your camper's cash in it. We take an envelope, put their money in it, put their name on the front, and then that is placed in a lockbox. So it's going to be completely safe. If you're bringing cash to camp, I would highly suggest that you use our camp bank. Having that, you never can know 100% what's going to happen to that cash in a dorm room with kids. Forgetting to lock the door. Did I lock the door? Did my roommate lock the door? Use our camp bank if you really want to bring cash. But the other option is the camp store bucks, which is basically like a ledger where you start with X amount. I start with $100. I buy a Gatorade. Now I'm down to $99. So you can add money to that by calling our offices here in Minneapolis, or you can call that camp store number like I mentioned, or your camper could take cash and add that to his bucks just so he's not walking around with cash. Again, get a lot of questions on that, and that's why I'm spending time on it. Again, the camp store, we do have snacks. At night we have pizza and subs. We have Gatorade there all day. We have freezies, popsicles, and then obviously we do have some JROB gear, as well as a lot of Minnesota Wrestling Gopher gear. Our hours of operation: we are open 3 times a day. Basically in between the sessions and then at night is when we're open the longest, because kids have a little bit more time to wind down and socialize at night when all the work is done for the day. And I'll just reiterate again, there is a camp store phone. Look at your confirmation materials if you want to talk to the camp store manager when we get into the summer here. A little bit about social media: we have a great audio visual person named Ryan, who's doing a lot of filming, a lot of photography at camp. We try to post photo albums as much as we can. We try to post to social media as much as we can. But again, our focus is on the training. Our focus is on the campers. Our focus is on making sure that camp is running as smooth as possible. We are getting as much as we can, and we are posting as much as we can, but we can't promise that your camper will be featured on social media or even in our photo albums. But pretty good chance that if you follow those Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, that you're gonna catch a good glimpse of your camper possibly, but you'll really be able to get a good idea of what's happening at camp. And that's why we do this, is to give parents a glimpse into what is actually happening at camp. So check out our social media sites there. Again, we put a lot of information on those as well, and it's pretty entertaining to follow during the summer months. Moving on to safety, it truly is our number one priority. I think this is what sets us apart from other camps, is just we know how hard we're pushing the kids. We know how intense the environment is, and the safety has to equal that. So I'm just going to run through a few of the major points. And again, we get a lot of questions on these and a lot of concerns from parents, and that's why I'm here, is to answer some of those questions. The daily weigh-in that I mentioned before, that first weigh-in at camp is what we're going to judge their hydration on for the rest of camp. That we allow them to lose 1.5% of their body weight throughout camp, and that's it. When you hit that point, that's when we'll sit a camper for 2 practices. What those 2 practices is for that camper to sit out and rehydrate. That's really our only way that we can judge hydration, and make sure they need to do a good job at staying hydrated, eating, drinking all day, and we give them a lot of opportunities to do that as well during the meals, and obviously we give them a lot of water breaks during the sessions. Herpes prevention, we're doing daily skin checks. We line them up. We have our trainers go through and look over the campers. We're trying to catch those things as quick as we can. We also do a skin check at check-in as well, right before we weigh them in for that initial weigh-in. We're doing skin checks there. So it's a huge focus of ours. Trust us when we say that it's the last thing we want to have happen. A lot of it is under the camper's control as well. So talk to your camper about their plan for skincare when they get to camp. They have to be showering when it's time to shower. They have to be using the right soap. They have to be getting their clothes into the laundry. Those things will help them be successful with skincare and obviously with camp. Jay mentioned it earlier, so I'm not going to go on and on. The practices will be adjusted daily if the heat becomes an issue. That happens quite a bit during the 28-day camp. It's completely ordinary for us. A little bit more about that herpes I want to go back and mention. That Velchex has been shown in a study at our 28-day camp to greatly reduce the risk of acquiring herpes. So if you need that study, that's on our website, but we recommend that for a reason. It makes a difference. So please go along with us on that. Back to our safety stuff. The ratio of staff to campers is 8 or 1 or better. We try to stay right on that ratio. Sometimes it goes 8, 9 to 1, but that's the number that we feel very, very comfortable with. That's a lot of eyeballs on the campers, which equals safety in our minds. Same thing with athletic trainers. We have 5 to 7 full-time trainers staffed at each camp. I say 5 to 7 based on the number of kids that are at camp, and we will adjust that if the numbers go up. We'll add trainers. We want to keep that good ratio. Again, something that makes us different. All of our counselors undergo background checks for our intensive camps and our 5-day camps. Just the world we live in, we want to ensure that we're putting the campers in a safe environment. So we go a step beyond where we don't have to do these things, but we do them because we want parents to know that we value that safety aspect of our camp. Again, something unique to us, all of our staff complete a mandatory 2-day training program. So we'll take all our new staff. We'll spend 2 solid days with them where they're learning the ins and outs of camp, the camp fundamentals, just our expectations, how they teach, and how they interact with the kids. And we have a very high expectation, and that reflects on the way that we train our staff and our athletic training staff. The last thing that I like to mention to parents is a little bit about this structured environment. We have 4 practices a day. They're being checked in and out of each of those practices. So that's 8 times right there where our staff is looking at your camper and making sure that he's okay and that he's present and that he's accounted for. Also at bed check is our staff is going into each room, looking at the campers, making sure that they're in their bed at night and that they are going to bed at a certain time. So that's 9 times throughout the day that a staff member has eyes on your camper and is having one-on-one dialogue with them, making sure that they're okay. And that's really where I get my confidence from at camp is just knowing that 9 times in the day our staff is addressing your camper one-on-one. So that's something to help you parents feel a little bit better about sending them out for 10 or 14 or 28 days, and that's something that I find very, very important to pass along to you. So along with safety, customer service is a major part of what we do. We have a great full-time customer service manager, Kelly. If you called the office here in Minneapolis, that's the first person that you'll talk to normally, and she can usually answer about every single question that you might have about camp. Some of the more wrestling and logistical things will get passed on to me, and please call with those questions. Even during the summer, we have a 24-hour response time to all inquiries. If you call in, someone's going to get back to you, and normally it's much shorter time frame than that, especially with those numbers that I gave you before with staff duty, trainer duty, and camp store phone. So please use those things if you have questions. The camp office phone is monitored 7 days a week during camp season. A little bit about calls to your athlete. It's changed a little bit with the cell phones now. Most of the kids, almost all the kids are going to have cell phones that parents are able to stay in contact with them. If there's ever a situation where you can't get a hold of them, don't hesitate to call and just say, hey, have little Tommy call me or he's going to be in trouble. We do get a little bit of that. Parents will call the staff duty phone if their son isn't answering the phone, or if they're having trouble getting a hold of them. Don't be embarrassed to do that. Call our staff duty. They'll usually walk right out to the kid, find him, and say, hey, call your mom and dad. I've even done that several times last summer where we had a couple of those calls. I already talked about the on-site staff duty phone, and I did talk about the athletic training phone. Obviously, depending on what your question is, use the different phone number that applies to that question. Pre-camp preparation is another thing that we get a lot of questions on. People want to know how to prepare for camp so they can be successful. In our confirmation materials, we do give some advice on what you can do to get yourself or your camper ready for camp. Please check that out. But really, you're coming into an environment where you're going to be working out 4 times a day. So what that should tell you or your camper is they need to get some days in. They need to get some weeks in where they're doing multiple workouts in a day. That's usually my suggestion to parents when they call into the office here. Make sure you're getting a couple weeks before camp where you're getting a couple workouts a day, either running or lifting, getting on the mat. Maybe go a few days where you're getting on the mat twice. I'm not saying you got to get all 4 workouts a day at home, but you have to be getting multiple so your body's getting ready for camp. Valtrex, we touched about that a little bit. You do need a doctor's prescription for that, but we highly recommend that. 12 sets of workout gear. You got 4 for the day that we're on. You got 4 that are in the laundry getting washed, and then you got an extra 4 that are just in case something happens where if your laundry gets lost or if something walks away or you misplace or you forget to throw it in, you do have an extra 4 sets of gear. Has to be clean gear at camp. If we smell a kid with dirty stuff, we're going to ask him to go back, get different stuff on. That's just something that we can't tolerate with all the skin conditions and hygiene. Good running shoes. Jay talked about running enough. Obviously, make sure you come, high top basketball shoes. They might be in style, but they're not going to do anything for your running ability. Make sure you have a good set of running shoes with you or your camper. Put your wrestler's name on everything. There's tags. The shirts, if they're customized, their name's already on them, but socks, underwear, knee pads, headgear, even the inside of wrestling shoes I would do. That'll really help make sure that you keep your stuff to yourself. And again, just one more reminder, please read those confirmation materials. Those are there for a reason. A lot of valuable information for you to get ready for camp. A little bit more about parents, just because you guys do play such a big role with your wrestlers. Again, practices are open. Don't be embarrassed to come in. Obviously, there's boundaries that need to be obeyed, but coming in and watching and observing are great. We have a lot of parents come to the 28-day camp, possibly take their camper out for a lunch or a dinner. The only thing, kids cannot get in any vehicles while they're at camp. So if you want to go anywhere when you do come visit, it has to be walking. Tough expectations of camp. It's pretty simple. Our camps are supposed to be very, very hard. You will get a phone call the first couple of days of camp and say, I'm not sure I can do this. This is unbelievably hard. That's the whole point. and I can't be any more blunt than that. It's supposed to be very hard. It's supposed to be challenging. Jay has designed this thing to really push these kids in a way that they've never been pushed before. That's the whole point, to get them to a place that they haven't been before. So if you do get one of those calls, or if you see some extreme homesickness, I would approach it on the front end before camp starts. Set the expectations, parents. Explain to your camper, hey, we got a goal. We think this is a great thing for you. You're going there, and we're going to see you on the last day of camp, and that's the way it's going to be. That front end work is going to play a huge role in making sure that your camper is successful. But if there's that homesickness, just encourage them to stay the first week. Ask them about what they've learned. Ask them specific questions, and give guidance that they can do it. Please be positive. The negative side of things normally don't work. Be positive. Remind them why they're at camp. And something that I've started to tell people, and what I've observed over 3 years, is I've never seen a kid regret finishing camp. I've never seen on that last day a kid come up and say, "Man, I wish I would have went home early." It's never happened. When kids make it through that last day, the looks on their faces and the pride that they have, there is no regrets from staying the entire camp. So just know that going into it, and we hope for successful experiences at camp. A few more fundamentals that just to go over. Again, we'll take some Q&A here in a second, but hopefully I can answer some of these questions right now. Our technique training and our practice. Jay touched on a lot of those things. Drilling and live wrestling, especially during those technique practices, live wrestling practices. Wrestling and running groups, just parents real quick. Your wrestling group is based on your size and your weight. We group kids by their weight. Running groups, you're based on that mile time that we do the very first night. So when you call and talk to your son, you say, "What wrestling group are you in?" They might say 1, 2, 3, or 4. What running group are you in? That sometimes goes all the way up to 8 or 10 groups. So that morning run is a huge part of camp. Jay touched on it, but I'm going to stress it. A lot of people say, "Well, why are you getting up and running?" We want them to be uncomfortable. They're proving to themselves that they can do something when they really don't feel like doing it, because no one feels like running at 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. Every day they're proving to themselves that they can do something that they don't want to do. That's powerful. That's when they come home and you start seeing those good habits. This is where it comes from. So morning running is huge for camp. We talked about athletic training and injury care, but our trainers are there before every single workout. They're usually the last ones to leave. Our athletic trainers probably put in more hours than anybody at camp. They're there before the morning run. They're there before every single session. They're there to help the campers, and they are a very, very important part of what we do. Weight monitoring and skin checks, I talked about those before, but we're going to be weighing these kids in based on that very first weigh-in. They're allowed to lose 1.5%. That's hydration, and that's how we know that they have proper hydration. That's a huge part of camp with the heat that we deal with. We are very concerned about their hydration because you get below a certain point, and that's when bad things happen. Skin checks, again, we're constantly doing those, pulling kids out. We're getting them either looked at by trainers, or we're taking them to the doctor and making sure that we catch those things early so we can get it taken care of, stop the spread, and get them back into camp, which is all we really want, is for them to be back in camp. Jay touched on that personal philosophy, which is so important for our camp, and obviously the life skills that we teach go hand in hand with the wrestling. You can see those there, and he did talk about those a little bit, but can't stress enough how important that we tie those life skills with this whole wrestling and training thing, and that's what makes our camps the special thing that they are. So I'm going to finish up with that. I'll give a 30 seconds to a minute here. I see we already have a lot of questions that have come in that Jay and I will take turns answering. I'm going to turn it back to Jay, and he's going to answer these first group of questions that y'all have. But if you have something, please get it in. If we don't get to it, please email Kelly or myself, and we will answer every question that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. We have some really good questions here. One of the questions is why Valtrex and how much? Usually it's one tablet a day. One of the things that happens with the reality is of going to camp is that wrestlers get interactive with each other, and then they pass on different skin things. And we have found that over the course of the 37 years, we've actually done a national study here that dropped the incident rate down with herpes. So Valtrex is something that we really recommend. It's entirely up to you whether your athlete uses it or not, but we think it's very important. It's no different than my team before the NCAA tournament, Big Ten tournament, because of stress, dehydration, and all the things that go on with it, that it shows up. The difference between an intensive camp and say a 5-day camp is it usually takes about anywhere from 7 to 9 days for an incubation period of herpes. So you could go to a technique camp, you could get it, come back, and then it could break out, or you could have it. So it's something that we have found to be very effective in help controlling skin problems while we're at camp. Question about injured, how does it affect your points? If you're not practicing, you lose points. The thing that I can say to that is there is a very fair system about what you can miss and how much practice you can miss, as opposed to being injured. And the premise is very simple, is that if you get hurt, you could be the #1 kid in the state, and you get hurt before the state tournament, and you don't go, you can't be a state champion. There's a certain amount of work that's required at the intensive camp, and you have to do that amount of work. So kids lose points, but the thing that I can say to that is it's a fair system. It's been developed over 37 years, and it's a system that we don't tell the kids, because when we tell the campers or the athletes, what happens is they start figuring out points, what they can miss and what they don't miss. So during the course with the point system, the athletes are never told where they are, but the thing that I can say is it's a very fair system. Another question is, can they leave? Are they supervised? Basically, is that while you're at camp, you're not allowed to be in a car at any time. You can't be in even a car with your parents. Is that the supervision is they're on foot. Now, as Ty said, they're checked on 9 times a day. And that's one of the things that we think is very effective, is that the illusion there is that they can move and they can go and they can do different things, but they're very limited by how far they can walk. The other thing is they're tired. And what happens is they run, come back, eat, go to bed, come back to practice, eat, and go to bed. So there's not a lot of travel. They don't go a lot of places. And the 28-day camp is a little bit different. They're allowed to go off, actually get on a bus and go somewhere. But it's pretty strictly supervised on where they can go and what they can do. They're supervised pretty much wherever they are in the entire time while they're at camp. Do you lose points for weight, injury? All of that you do. Is that weight is under their control. It's something that we put a scale in the dormitory so that they can check their weight, so they always know where they are. And it goes back to the same thing about responsibility and accountability. And this is one of the things that when you can start talking to other camp directors, ask them these things. And pretty much most of them don't have answers for it. We have answers pretty much for why we do everything. And that's the reason why we put the scale in the dorm, is that they're responsible for checking their weight. They're responsible for their making sure that they're hydrated. Another thing, Ty talked about safety. The safety issue is we issue them all a water bottle, and we issue them that water bottle so they stay hydrated. That water bottle is checked before every practice. And there again, it goes back to the responsibility. Accountability is that if it's not full, they lose points. So everything is comes back time and time again, and it's reiterated time and time again, so to make sure that they do what you're supposed to. Can you get points back? The only thing at camp that you can gain points is on the run. Everybody has to run 9 miles. It's optional whether they wrestle or they run 12 or 15. So those are things that deal with the point system. There's a question here just about headphones. Can they use headphones? They can use headphones on the final run, but when they're running, usually they cannot use headphones. When they go out to run in the morning, the runs are they're very specific, they're very intense, and the whole object is for them to learn to focus. You have really never seen anybody run really hard in the Olympic Games with headphones, and it's the same thing here. The object is to push them. So, are there time limits for the runs in the morning? No, there's not time limits per se, but as Ty said, the wrestlers are put in different groups based upon their times on the very first day, and they're training against people on their own running time. So we also look at it on a daily basis, and if they have a wrong time, we'll move them from running group to running group depending upon how they're doing and how they're competing with the people that they're competing against. So those are a lot of the questions that we have. Food allergies, most of it's dorm food. The cafeteria does most of the stuff that we have to deal with. There's usually an array of different salads, different menus, different entrees as you go through, and different things to drink. I'm not sure if we covered it, but one of the things that they do when they come to camp, the first 5 days, 7 days of camp, they cannot drink any pop. And the reason here again is if you ask us why, it's that pop does not rehydrate them. It's one of the worst things that you can do. So as I say again, is that many of the things that we do for a reason, and they're not allowed to drink pop the first 3 days. Let me give this to Ty. He's got a couple questions here.
All right, I'll finish up with a few more that just came in. We had a question about showers. At our intensive camps, there are showers in the athletic area, in the athletic facility. So right after practice, if they wanted to get right in the shower, that's completely fine. That's like a locker room setting, just like at high school. But also back in the dorms is where most of the campers will shower. So again, that's first come, first serve. You know, there should probably be some hustling after practice is over, after the session is over, to get in that shower. They're single stall showers, just like imagine a dorm at colleges, and that's the shower situation. But very, very important as far as the skincare goes. The extra points for black hat, or just a black hat question we had here. Is it the most athletic or is it the most dedicated? It's how I phrase it is it's the kid that exemplifies the J7 the most. And we give one black hat per wrestling group. So at Iowa, that's 3 black hats. Pennsylvania, that's 4. At Minnesota, that's 5. But it's one black hat per wrestling group, and it's the kid that has shown the most dedication. It is not the best wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. It's the person that's doing everything right, would be the easiest way to put it. So, and as far as the points go, you know, the points do come into play for the black hat, and that's how the kids are judged for that is, you know, are you getting positives? Are you getting negatives? Are you missing assignments? Are you showing up late? And those things do equal points. So people do lose points for not doing what they're supposed to do, and that's a huge part of that accountability. And that's probably my favorite part of the J7 is the word accountability, because in this environment, kids are being held accountable for every single thing that they do, and we hold them accountable in a number of ways. So that accountability is huge, and the person whoever wins the black hat has been very, 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 very accountable and responsible at camp, and it's a pretty special award to win there. Protein at camp, it's probably not a bad thing. The one thing we tell people not to bring is creatine. That's something that is not right for this environment. If you have any questions on that, look that up. But protein is definitely not bad for you. It just helps repair the muscles, and I would never tell someone not to bring that. A couple more questions about parent visiting. Yep, parents are sure to visit whenever they feel they need to come. We do get a lot of parents that second to last day of camp for graduation. That's a very popular time for parents to come visit, and a lot of parents will stay the night somewhere and then watch that marathon at the end and then take their camper home. Um, recommended how much money? It's kind of hard to say. 50 a week is kind of what some people have said is a legitimate amount, but just communicate with your camper about, how much they really think they need to be spending. Again, they're eating 3 meals a day in the dorms, but if they want to buy some Gopher gear, if they want to buy some JROB gear, if they want to have pizza at night and a Gatorade, start adding those things up and just go by day. Maybe give them a daily allotment. And then, however many number of days of camp there, do the math. And that's kind of what I would recommend. But cash is something that I would not recommend bringing a lot of. If you do, put it in our bank, but by and large, you're probably better off putting it in the camp store bucks. Another question about weight loss, and again, it's a very common question, but the thing that I would ask you, if you really had questions was, the number one thing for us is making sure that these campers are safe, and they're in an environment where they're training an unbelievable amount, and a lot of times it's a very warm environment, and the only way that we can tell if they're hydrated is to go by their weight. That's our number one indicator. Now, obviously, we're watching them. We're watching for facial expressions. We're watching for sluggishness. We're trained to watch all those things, but that weight is just our initial baseline way to make sure that these kids are at a healthy weight and that they're properly hydrated. So there's some circumstances where, yes, a kid could lose more than 1.5% and still be hydrated, and that's a very rare circumstance. For the most part, again, we've consulted doctors with this. This is the acceptable range that we're in, and this is what we go by at camp. If there's things that pop up, we'll deal with them. If there's situations that pop up where a person undergoes a lot of, it's just really hard to lose a lot of fat in this amount of time. For the most part, it's a lot of water, and that's why we're focused on the hydration. But very good questions on that. A little bit question about our journal. We give them a lot of direction about when they need to have their journal done, when they need to present their journal for us to check out. Everything is spelled out for them, and that's the best part about camp. The night before, every single day, we post the schedules up. So before they go to bed, they know exactly what's going to be done the next day, down to the minute. So they know that when I wake up, they know exactly when they have to wake up. They know what their first workout's going to be. They know when breakfast, they know every single thing about the following day, what's going to happen. So all the assignments are posted on the schedule. When they have to have their journal ready, when they have to have anything ready is available for them. All they need to do is read the schedule and do exactly what it says. And Jay explains it by, he's giving you the answers to the test. You just got to follow it. And that's really the truth. They need to pay attention to that schedule and do whatever it says. And that's really the best advice I can give. A couple more questions I saw about protein and nutrition. It's personal preference. We're not going to recommend a certain brand or amount or anything like that. We're very concerned with them just getting their 3 meals in a day, staying hydrated. And another question about weight and experience. The thing about our wrestling groups, the kids, the great thing about our camps is they're going to get a lot of workout partners. There's always going to be some kids that might be a little better than you, and there might be some kids that maybe aren't as experienced as you, and there might be a lot that are about the same skill level as you. So you're going to have a lot of practice partners. You're going to end up wrestling maybe every single kid in your group, and that would be my recommendation to a camper on the first day is try to wrestle every single person you can. So they shouldn't be wrestling the same guy over and over and over again. They're constantly getting different partners, different situations, different length goes, top, bottom on your feet. So, the experience thing, it is, if you dwell on it, it might bother some people, but the great thing is you're getting to see a lot of different styles, a lot of different opponents, and that's something where you see some kids really develop very quickly is because they're seeing all these different styles and opponents, and they can improve at a really rapid rate. I think that is where we're going to wrap it up today for our Q&A. Again, we've answered a lot of questions. I will stress the confirmation materials one more time to you. This webcast will be recorded and placed on our website here in the next day or two. If you want to refer back to it, you can skip forward and backward to different sections of things that we've covered. That's a nice thing about a recording. If you have any other questions, please call our office here in Minneapolis, or please email Kelly or myself. We're more than happy to answer any questions you might have. If you want to talk to me, give me a call. I have no problem talking to people on the phone and answering any questions about camp. We know it's a big commitment by families and a big investment in time. So we want you to be comfortable before you come to camp. But we appreciate you logging on tonight. Check the recording if you need to see it again. But thank you, and we're looking forward to camp, and we'll see you then.